What if the best way to grow your brand wasn't just about selling, but about educating, empowering, and building real trust with your audience? In this episode, I'm joined by Sunna van Kampen, the founder of Tonic Health, the UK's fastest growing vitamin brand. With a run rate of 6 million and growing exponentially, Tonic Health is revolutionising the supplement industry, calling out low-dose, sugar-laden vitamins and replacing them with high-potency, plant-based alternatives that actually work. But here's what's fascinating. Sunna didn't just build a vitamin business, he built a content machine that has amassed millions of followers on Instagram and TikTok, regularly hitting 50 million plus organic views per month. His short, sharp, educational videos don't just sell vitamins, they get people talking, thinking, and making better health choices. In this conversation, Sunna reveals how he built a market-leading brand from scratch despite launching just as COVID shut down retail, the power of content-first brand building and why he ignored investors who told him to stop, the myths and misinformation in the vitamin industry and why most supplements don't work, and what's next for Tonic Health as they scale at lightning speed. Sunna van Kampen of Tonic Health, welcome to Brand Growth Heroes. How are you doing?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Fiona.
Oh, it's brilliant. Brilliant to meet you finally. We've been in touch on email and on LinkedIn for quite a bit. I cannot get over the amount of followers you guys have on Instagram and on TikTok, and your videos are blooming brilliant. I've been watching them for years. Which came first, the videos or the vitamin business?
Actually, the vitamin business came first. So we grew up during COVID. So I launched the business and went full time on Tonic in March 2020, just before COVID happened. And so what happened was we had this great product and this great vitamin that nobody knew about because no one was on the high street and everybody was at home, and I couldn't, educate through retailers like the normal way I would. So we knew our biggest challenge was education. How do we help people be healthier? How do we help them understand the differences in the vitamin industry and broader health? And so, we had a vitamin business with a communications challenge, which then we tried and tested everything from podcasts to newsletters, and actually did focus groups with people trying to understand what level of health information they wanted and how digestible they wanted it. And that's when we kind of stumbled upon creating videos and keeping it really short form, everything under 60 seconds. And then it started going viral.
What I love about what you do is you aren't just standing in the vitamin shelf looking at supplements and saying this supplement has this, and you're actually going elsewhere in the supermarket, and it's elsewhere which is part of everyone's everyday life, and it's kind of adjacent to what you're selling. And I think, but at the same time, it's got, the same underpinning, which is about putting good food in your body and knowing what's on the back of pack. Is really clever.
Yeah, well, because it's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about my product. It's actually about you and your health. And that was the fundamental premise that we built this kind of content engine with, which is how do we help people be healthier? And that touches everything, right? That touches the bread you're eating in the morning for breakfast, as well as the vitamins you're taking, or, how you're sleeping or anything else. So we try and just be very holistic and helpful to people in general.
So if you haven't checked out Sunna's channels on Instagram and TikTok, it's Tonic Health, right?
At Tonic Health, yeah.
Check them out. Absolutely fabulous videos where Sunna goes around different categories and shelves in supermarkets and picks out products and says, look, let's just have a look at what was the latest one you've done? Can you bring us through one that sticks out in your mind?
One that sticks in my mind, we talk about the differences of wild salmon versus farmed salmon, and how there's actually more nutrients in wild salmon, and how it's important, that we live in a food chain, and what you feed the fish ultimately dictates the nutrition you get in the fish. And so often farmed salmon are fed a diet of artificial astaxanthin to make their color go orange, but that artificial astaxanthin has never been tested on humans for human consumption. Because it's fine, it's fed to the fish, and it's like, okay, well, it's fed to the fish, but we're eating the fish, so what is it? What does it do? Is it okay? Is it not okay? We don't know. They haven't done the studies. And so typically, it's better that an animal eats a natural wild diet, in my opinion. And then now you've got the whole bovine scandal going on as well in, dairy and cows, where it's like, okay, this thing, bovine, is harmful to humans to touch. It's an irritant on the skin. It's, farmers have to wear goggles and masks when they feed it to the cows because it's not good, like it's a chemical. but then it's going into the cows that you eat and they say it's fine, but we don't actually know. And I'm not saying I know that it's wrong. I don't know. The studies haven't been done. I'm just kind of pointing to the fact that these things are going on, and maybe we should do a bit more research before we start experimenting with our food.
That's really interesting. I didn't even know about that. Isn't that crazy? I'm going to have to go off and look at it. Where do you get, and I want to get back to the business stuff, but where do you get all this information from? I mean, what are you kind of hooked into on an everyday basis, and what books are you reading in order to make sure that you know all of this?
Well, so often books, this stuff happens so quickly that, books take a year to write and then maybe another year to publish. So books are almost a little bit behind sometimes. We have a nutritionist in-house who's constantly looking at the latest research, delving into studies. We're kind of hearing things on the grapevine through the industry, and then we'll go away and do our own research. And we're actually starting to do our own tests, and we're taking products off the shelf now and testing them ourselves with a third party lab to try and figure out where there's potential pain points in the food system and help people make better, more informed choices.
Oh, wow. That is interesting and scary. Your business model is becoming really, really interesting now. I'm thrilled to introduce Brand Growth Hero's newest partner, Jolson. Jolson is a leading B Corp certified commercial law firm that specialises in guiding the founders of scaling CPG brands. With long-term relationships with clients like Little Moons, Trip, Eat Natural, Bear, Graze and Pulson, Jolson is also famous for advising the Innocent founders in their landmark sale to Coca-Cola. And believe it or not, they still work with the Innocent founders at Jam Jar Investments today. I'm especially impressed by how Jolson sets founders up for long-term success and by their commitment to championing female founders. Recently, I asked Jolson's managing partners, Phil Hale-Smith and Paul Chappie, whether it really can make a difference from a commercial perspective if you work with a corporate lawyer who not only understands your business, but also knows you and what you're trying to achieve.
The deals that you can negotiate can deliver massively different results because you've got someone that has lived and breathed that for, decades alongside you, and you're often behind the scenes, so you're not actually going to be visible.
It's like having kryptonite in your pocket.
Exactly, that's what Jolson is.
Yeah,
we're kryptonite in your pocket.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Job
we can
done.
finish now.
Job done.
I'm going to get Paul a special t-shirt with kryptonite written on it now.
Yeah, maybe not in your pocket though, just kryptonite. Huge thanks to Brand Growth Heroes podcast sponsors, Jolson. Now let's get back to the show. So let's go back to the beginning. So you, pre-COVID, you decided to set up a bit of a vitamin business. Why? And you got into Holland & Barrett. So tell us a bit about that period of time.
Yeah, so I mean, it came from when I used to work in banking and I was getting sick 4 or 5 times a winter and didn't know why. Through some self-testing and talking to a doctor and nutritionist, figured out I had nutrient deficiencies, so my immune system fundamentally wasn't working, so that every cold going landed on my doorstep and I had to deal with, which sucked.
Can I ask, what were you deficient in?
Vitamin D was a primary, main deficiency that was affecting it. But I was a young guy in London, burning the candle at both ends, playing sport, eating so-called healthy food, but I was really just focused on protein because I was 20 something and going to the gym.
Yeah.
And, I forgot about this whole world of micronutrients and how important they are to your body's function. So, I didn't take vitamins because I thought they were expensive and didn't need them.
And don't you just wee them out anyway? I mean, that's my thing. Every time I'm taking vitamins, there's no point anyway because you're just weeing them out. We won't go there, but did you think that?
I didn't think that. I just didn't see the value in them, so I didn't buy them. I was like a young guy and it was expensive, right? And I just kind of went, I don't really need these, it's fine.
I'm eating good food.
Eat healthy, yeah. But it just, it came down to the fact that I wanted to do something about this illness because I was always getting sick and missing out on life, basically. So then, managed to change my attitude, started taking supplements and vitamins, and then all of a sudden I didn't get any colds anymore and I was totally fine. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. But in that journey, went to the vitamin aisle, realized this big problem that all the vitamins on the vitamin aisle are based on the RDA dosage or the NRV percentage you see on the back of every pack. And that, when you look into it, is actually the minimum amount you need to prevent a deficiency disease like scurvy or rickets. Now, all the science I got my nose into and read showed that there was an optimal level over here, which is for optimal energy, mood, immunity, you name it. And so there's this big gap between what was on the offer on the vitamin shelf and what the science was telling me I should take. And so I was like, why is that? And obviously it's, you can get down the rabbit hole, but it's nice and easy to sell low dose supplements and high margins. No one wants to sell that optimal dose because it's way more expensive. So I saw this as a big, ethical challenge of the entire vitamin industry, because that myth and misconception where you're like, oh, well, you just weigh it out anyway, or you get everything you need from a balanced diet. It's like these myths are, helping drive in an industry that isn't functional for what it should be. So fast forward to, March 2020, I'd managed to just get the brand and the product to a place where I was like, right, now I can go on this full time. So went full time, and then a couple of weeks later, the government decided to shut down the industry, and we'd managed to get a Holland and Barrett listing. So that was, in market, and there was no one on the high street. So we had this product. We'd raised a little bit of money, the first angel kind of round. And so we had enough money to survive, but we knew we just had this huge problem of how do we get people talking about this product.
Was it just one product at that point? What was on the shelf at that
Two.
point?
We launched with two. We launched with two high-dose immunity vitamins, basically, which were high-dose vitamin C, D, and zinc, but real lemon and ginger. And
they're the ones, the effervescent ones in the tube?
No, not the effervescence. We have sachets as well. It was the sachets that we started with. So they were super high dose for in times of need. And so in one hand, it was like COVID happened and immunity was this big topic all of a sudden everyone was talking about, and we had immunity vitamins. But then on the other hand, we were on shelves and 95% of the footfall had disappeared. So yeah, challenging times.
So what did you do?
So what did we do? I mean, first of all, it was kind of a question of survival. Like, sales weren't hitting what we thought they should be hitting, obviously. So it was like, how do we, continue going and protect cash and runway? But then at the same time, it was like, well, how do we talk to people, right? Like we were thinking we would launch in the retailers, we would go educate the store staff, and we would help them show people why tonic was different. But then none of that landed. So then we knew we had to play a content game online, right? And so that's when, we invested in Instagram content, and we were doing newsletters, and we started our own podcast during COVID as well, where we were doing podcasts with all these amazing doctors and scientists around the world, having really interesting conversations with people who were doing studies on COVID on the front line, and like fascinating conversations, but no one cared. Literally no one cared.
I must be in the wrong business. That must be what's going on here, Sunna. We'll have a talk. We'll have a talk after the show where you can kind of train me up in this new way of doing it, okay?
Happy to, but it was just basically people don't have the time, right?
Yeah.
They don't have the time to sit and listen to me harp on about health for an hour and like really complicated conversations. They just wanted the nuggets, the insight. What do I need to do?
So what did you do?
Well, so that's when we were like, okay, we actually did focus groups. That's where we started going, okay, what level of health are you interested in? Why did, we went to our own customer base and said, why did you buy tonic? What was it for? What are you interested in reading our newsletter? What sort of level? And I'll never forget it. One guy said, listen, everyone knows they need to be a little bit healthier, but frankly, I just don't care enough to start reading your newsletter about this study that says I get X% benefit by doing this. Like, I don't have the time. So just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it, is kind of what he said. And so that's where we went, okay, like how do we make this really simple? And so that's when we started going into the supermarket and, filming less than 60-second clips of just me going, swap this for this, because if you do that, you're going to cut your sugar content by 50%.
Okay.
And that's what started going viral.
And did it happen straight away? Did you know you'd hit something straight away, or did it grow over time?
To be honest, we got quite lucky quite quickly. I think it was like video number 10 or something. So, we went in, filmed a batch of videos, started posting, first few videos don't go viral, do a few thousand views, whatever. And then very quickly, I think around the 10th video, one did 250,000 views. And we were like, oh my God, that's insane. Like, that's so many people. And so we were like, okay, what worked in that video? What was it that made it go viral? Let's do more of that. And then we just kept doing that and have been doing that for the last probably 2.5, 3 years.
So do you like put a day aside a week for that, or an afternoon or a morning? How do you do it?
Try and keep it really lean because obviously I'm also the CEO of the company, so I've got a business to run, and so we try and do 2 days a month essentially.
Clever.
And just in those 2 days, I block it out my diary, and we'll spend 8, 9 hours filming to try and get as much content as we can, and then I don't have to touch it for the rest of the month.
That's amazing. Okay, so you get these first 10 up, 250,000 views. You're realizing this is working. Is there an impact on sales then? Where is the revenue stream at that point, and how does it start growing?
Well, so in the beginning, it didn't really have a noticeable impact on revenue, right? Like one video that does 250,000 views talking about, I think the first one was talking about wine and how swapping from Malbec to Pinot Noir saves you sugar content. Like it didn't have a huge impact on sales because why would it, right? You're not talking about your own product. So it was really a case of then me going to investors and showing them everything we're doing and look at the virality, and they're like, yeah, what's the click-through rate? And can you prove the link to sales? And I was like, click-through rate's 0.02%. I can't. And they were like, well, stop wasting your time on it. And I was like, no, because I think it's about building community and it's about building trust and awareness. And at some point, we'll be able to talk about our vitamins and then hopefully drive some conversion into the business. But right now, it's just about helping people. And so the investor definitely didn't like that, but I just carried on doing it anyway because I believed in it. And it took a bit of while, but as it kept going and we kept getting viral views, then we were seeing people coming onto our profile page and then clicking the link in bio and then going to our website and then seeing our vitamins and then purchasing. So it was a slightly slower, longer funnel than most investors would like, but we trusted in the process and kept doing it. And then now, the more and more we build scale, we can really see the impact it has.
And is it one of those things where you build the scale, you see the impact at sales level, but you can't necessarily follow all of the funnel all the way through, but the both of them are growing in tandem at the same rate? So you're assuming that there is a conversion in there.
Exactly. I mean, now we're at the scale where you can really see when we have a fantastic month, like we did in January, where we did our highest ever views in a month, which was 52 million organic views in a month. Then we really saw our rates of sale numbers actually
Okay.
increase quite significantly. We're like, okay, so we don't exactly know how, like you say, where people are translating, but there is a definite correlation now. And we've even had, because we talk about so many other brands as well, we've even had brands like a Jason Sourdough say to us, like, can you just stop talking about us for a little bit because we're actually out of stock and we've got availability issues. And because we talked about them so much at some point, we basically helped sell them out.
Is that my friend Barry?
Quite possibly, yeah. It's been a wild ride, but yeah, we see it and the retailers know it now as well. So Tesco have told us that when we do particular videos in dairy, they see sales go up.
So have people not come to you and said, well, why don't you become a media company instead of a vitamin company?
They have, yeah. I mean, a lot of people have tried to pay us and stuff to do things, but fundamentally, what I'm excited about is building Tonic as a vitamin company because I think we need to change the industry and get those doses up in vitamins. That was why I started this thing. And fundamentally, to do that, I think keeping the channel unsponsored, like almost the unsponsored truth, is really important actually, because I see tons of influencers go through this cycle, right? They create some content, nice content, they build a following, and then all of a sudden they're promoting Kellogg's Special K and how it's part of my morning routine. And you're like, no, it's not. Like, you don't do that. That you're not the guy eating Special K for breakfast, but you've probably been paid 20 grand to do this video. And I just think it's so inauthentic, and I think it's wrong. And I just don't want to be a sellout where all of a sudden the food industry will pay me to do their work for them and tell people what healthy is when I don't truly believe it. Like, I've seen tons of nutritionists and doctors promote Alpro, and yeah, because Alpro have deep pockets, but it's the worst plant-based milk out there, full of gums, emulsifiers, and added sugars and nonsense. And I'm like,
is it? Tell me, because I drink loads of it.
yeah, you got to stay away from Alpro. Plenish is the one to buy because it's they just use the plant ingredient and nothing else.
I'm looking to the side to my studio Producer here who's constantly by, he always very kindly texts me in the morning, goes, I've got your milk in, because he's a really nice person. And it's, a guy stopped me. Maybe this is actually a real life-changing moment. I went into McDonald's because it was beside the football pitch on the weekend with my 8-year-old. And I went in to get a coffee because it was the only place. And, you know, McDonald's coffee is good coffee. And I said, do you have any soya milk? And this guy with no teeth, and, you know, they've got no teeth. I'm not judging you, but like, obviously maybe sleeping rough, no teeth. And he looks at me, he goes, don't you know that soya milk's an endocrine disruptor?
Did he really say that?
He actually did. Like, he had loads of tats and no teeth and, you know, hadn't washed. He goes, don't you know, and soya milk's an endocrine disruptor? And I just looked at him and went, oh my God, like you know, I've just come out of, well, I keep saying just, but like a year ago, finished 2 years of chemo. This has got to be a message from the gods. You know what I mean?
Coming through the McDonald's.
Yeah, I think they say,
yeah.
when I was in school in Ireland, and we all had to go to convent schools or preschools because basically like religion owns the Irish education system. And they would say Jesus walks amongst us in various forms. And there we go. That would have been him back in the day when I believed all that stuff. So thank you, Sunna. I think I will go and start buying Plenish instead of Alpro. It's mental. So with that many views in January, right, am I allowed to ask what your run rate is currently?
Yeah, so we're, you know, tracking at 6 million run rate at the moment,
Okay.
and growing all the time. I mean, January was actually higher. We hit about 7.5 million, but there were various reasons why that is. So our base is about 6.
It sounds to me like you are on an exponential growth curve now, and you might be tracking at, you know, 7.5 million January, and by the time April comes, you could be tracking at 10. Is summer slower because people are out drinking fruit juices?
I mean, from an acquisition point of view, August is obviously a difficult month because everyone just cares about their holiday. But we see the same in December because everybody cares about Christmas rather than their health,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, there are little bits of seasonality, but not really, because all the supplements we sell are designed for sort of daily consumption. So you get a lot of people just carrying on looking after their health through the summer as well. And especially now we have kids vitamins as well. You know, you're not going to just stop your kid taking vitamins.
So let's talk about range. So what does the range look like now? How many SKUs? What do you cover? Like, is it segmented by usage or need state or format or?
Now we start in baby, so we've got 6 to 36 months baby multivitamin dropper. That's an all-in-one, covers your
Wow.
immunity with vitamin D and elderberry, but as well as all your broad range of 14 vitamins, minerals, and plants. That is the only baby multivitamin in the UK that doesn't have sugar or preservative added. Believe it or not, the leading baby multivitamin in the UK, the first ingredient is sugar. Which is like crazy when you think you're trying to give your baby something healthy, and instead you're just feeding them this sugary drop, which is, it's been shown that, you know, the more sugar you give a baby in the first 18 months, it develops a palate for later in life, and they crave sweeter things, and they have a higher chance of diabetes and all this stuff. So terrible stuff.
How did you get sign off for a baby multivitamin? Is that like, I didn't even know that there were such things as baby multivitamins. I knew there was baby vitamin D drops, but I didn't know there was baby multivitamins.
No, you get baby multivitamins, but, you know, typically it's quite a, you know, well-studied area from a safety point of view. In vitamins, you know, everything is guided by, well, it used to be EFSA from a European standpoint. Now the UK have just copied and pasted that legislation across, where, you know, they've studied the levels of vitamins babies need. They've studied maximum tolerable limits and lower limits as well that don't have effect. So you know the ranges of where to go. But then the industry typically go even lower than that to make a nice healthy margin, because parents don't really understand it. So the industry's typically low dose. So we are still the highest dose baby multivitamin dropper on the market, but within safe limits, obviously.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay, so baby, and then?
Baby, then we go into kids. So we have a range of kids gummies. So we have a kids multivitamin gummy, which is the world's first gummy with no added sugar, no added sweetener. It's just made out of beetroot fiber, which is amazing because you wouldn't even know. Like, kids love it. It tastes like a gummy. It looks like a gummy, and essentially they just love the taste. And then the parents get the added health benefits, which obviously the kids at 3 years old don't really care about or don't really know about yet. But so we have kids multivitamin, kids immunity, immunity. And then actually this week, which by the time this airs, I'm guessing will be out, we've just launched a kids probiotic as well.
Ooh.
So that's coming out in the market, which is really exciting and, working very well.
How are you positioning it? Is it just kids probiotic?
So that is just a kids probiotic. So we've got our kids multivitamin, which is like the base. We say everybody should be giving their kid a multivitamin just to cover all the bases, make sure they get enough nutrients and can grow and develop properly. And then the probiotics more about that, kids often get tummy bugs and constipation.
Yeah, that's the reason I was asking. As a parent of 3 kids, do you have kids? Did I hear a kid in the background?
I've got 2 kids.
You've got
I've
two
got
kids.
2 kids. Yeah.
And I think if you're a younger person listening to this, unless you've got younger brothers and sisters, and you don't have your own kids yet, you probably don't realise you haven't been the privileged parent to experience constipation in children, and it is a bloody head wreck, and it goes on for years, and it's like 1 in 3 kids, and it's so difficult to manage because it's not just a question of an adult, sorting it out themselves. It's like then they don't want to go to the toilet, and then it becomes a big deal, and then it becomes a big tantrum, and then you've got the messy side of it. And
Yeah.
I think there's a massive opportunity to talk more about that.
Yeah, it's a real pain point for parents. I mean, because of our social community, we get hundreds of direct messages a day of going, what do I do about this, from people
Okay.
and parents. So we've got a really good line of sight of
Wow.
those pain points, which then helps inform what we need to make and
Like
develop.
a little constant market research focus groups.
100%.
Unbelievable. It's like an ecosystem that you've built that we didn't even realize necessarily at the beginning how valuable it's going to be.
Oh, it's insane. I mean, you go to Kantar World Panel for like some insight and they can give you like 2,000 responses for 10 grand. I can do a story and have about 5,000 responses in 24 hours for free.
God. So you've actually got a market research company. If the vitamin business doesn't work, it's like media company, market research company. No, I'm joking. This is tongue in cheek because of course I know you wouldn't do that, but it's incredible. And then, sorry, we keep going. So you've got the kids probiotic, and then
So then we've got kids. Then we go into adults, where we've got the effervescence as our core range, where we have daily immunity, energy and hydration, and rest and recover as your kind of 3 things that you should be doing in a day to optimize your health. So in the morning, instead of first thing you want to do in the morning, reach for a cup of coffee, you actually want to hydrate because you've been asleep for 8 hours and not drinking liquid. So that's where we have energy and hydration, which has got all the B vitamins, Panax,
I need that one.
ginseng, and then electrolytes. I'll send you some. Send me your address afterwards.
Did
and
you
I'll send
see me
some.
when I got in here? I looked under the light. I was like, I am so dehydrated. I have run out of the house because it's half term, and my wonderful producer Catherine has booked me 2 interviews in one day, and I am like trying to get the kids ready. Ran out of the house. I actually filled this Tesco orange juice bottle. There was a dreg left in it that someone left me, and I filled it with a litre of water, and I'm trying to hydrate, and I sat down in front of the computer and looked at you, and I thought, oh my God, I look 10 years older because I had nothing to do, like I'd no go-to thing. So that's what I need, something on my counter, yeah.
You need that morning ritual of just like big glass of water, chuck a tonic in it, and away you go. And that gives you all the electrolytes, over 1,000 milligrams of electrolytes you need to hydrate properly in the morning. And then we have daily immunity for your immune system, which you can take any time throughout the day, which has all your C, D, and zinc and reishi mushroom in it. And then rest and recovers at night because we all need to sleep well, right? And actually, typically 75% of the population are deficient in magnesium, which affects sleep. So we have high dose magnesium, ashwagandha, and lemon balm, rest and recover, which is then that drink before bed.
Can I ask you a question? So imagine I was like the person who did all of those things, right? I was a tonic health person who money was no object, and I had something for every part of my day. Would I not be then taking too many vitamins and too many minerals and at risk of, hurting my liver?
Not at all, because every product is designed for a different function with different vitamins and minerals in it. So there's no overlap or contraventions that would mean you're taking too much of anything, essentially. We just use targeted nutrients for specific need states and functions throughout the day, basically.
Because I think that's what I'm scared of is like if I take one multivitamin and then I take, I'm not talking about tonic here, I'm talking about anything. So say, for example, I take a multivitamin and then I have to take a B vitamin with magnesium. And then I'm thinking, shoot, is there overlap here? And I'm never quite sure.
Well, that's why we make ours a range that's very clear. These are the need states, and you can take them all together. I mean, I think the risk of overconsumption of vitamins is a bit overplayed, in fact, because you do have fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D, which can cause vitamin D toxicity. But people say, oh, you shouldn't take too much vitamin D because X, Y, and Z. But the reality is, when you look at the studies where vitamin D toxicity has been demonstrated, what you're talking about is actually taking like the whole tube of tonic, daily immunity, every day for 3 months.
Okay.
So, like the difference between actually demonstrating vitamin toxicity and what people are scared of is a big gap.
I think the reason I was asking was there was something in the newspapers over the weekend, I think it was the Times, about the increase in liver damage in the last 10 years amongst people who are taking supplements. And I was wondering where that was coming from, but I don't know.
I'll have to look into that. I haven't seen the
It might be
research.
worth having a look at
I'll
it and
check
then
it out.
doing a video on it, because
Yeah.
people see that and kind of go, ah. Obviously, your business has had to grow, your team has had to grow with the business. So it started out with just you. Who else is in the business now?
Now we've got a whole team, believe it or not. We've got a finance director, we've got a head of operations, head of sales, head of marketing, head of growth. So we've got a really kind of solid team now where all parts of the business are being operated by someone brilliant.
So, head of growth, what do they do? Is that online?
Head of growth is online, so focus primarily on Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, those kinds of things. They're driving real conversion online.
And where do they sit? Are they all at home or in an office or?
So yeah, so interestingly, I did the opposite of what everyone does, which is during COVID, I went and got an office because I couldn't handle being at home all the time, and vitamins were part of the essential work category. So I got an office nearby, and it was there for people that wanted to come, and I didn't force anyone to come if they didn't want to, but whatever, it was there. So we worked in an office during COVID, and then when we came out of COVID and all the office places put up their prices by like double to try and make their money back again, we closed the office and went fully virtual as a business. So we've been virtual for the last sort of 2 and a bit years. So we try and meet up every 2-3 months in and around London typically, but primarily everything's online through Slack, through Zoom, through all the typical channels, and we've all been very good at doing it that way. It has pros and cons.
Yeah, and as you grow, you're at 10 now, but when each of those people start building down teams, how will that look? Because they might have your ops director might have 5 people underneath them.
Yeah, well, that bit, is still definitely that bit's still definitely part of our learning journey. Like we were 5-6 people up until very recently, so definitely can see straight away it's like, okay, now we need to start thinking about building culture and values and
Yeah.
things, because with the size we've been, primarily you rely on your own values to hire people and run, but now we need to kind of codify that a little bit more and expand it into the team as more and more people join so they understand how we like to work, basically.
I've had some really good recommendations lately of some smaller companies who've had some great experiences with companies that are very small companies that help come in and help them codify their culture and stuff. So if you're ever looking for any recommendations, let me know offline. Okay, and so what's next then for Tonic Health? I mean, how big do you want this to get, and where to next?
Genuinely, what gets me out of bed in the morning and inspires me is the fact that this industry, I believe, has been doing it fundamentally wrong and been selling people low dose junk that doesn't work. Like, if you look at the fact that the vitamin industry as a whole globally buys more sugar than it does vitamin, you start to quickly realize there's a big problem here that needs addressing. And it's shocking, right?
I am shocked.
It's shocking, and the fact is that I believe it needs to change. So the only way I'm going to change it is by making tonic as big as I possibly can. So I get excited by beating up Vitabiotics and Barocca and Bassett's, who is one of the biggest kids vitamin manufacturers, which is actually a sweet manufacturer, and they put hardly any vitamin in their kids' vitamins. And I just think it's criminal, especially when you look at the data which shows kids in the UK now 7 centimeters shorter than European kids on average due
No.
to lack of nutrition in the diet. So we're just eating an ultra processed food diet, not giving kids enough nutrition, and therefore they're now shorter. So we're stunting kids' growth, and you go like, what are we doing to our people and our health? And I think it's got to change. We're at an inflection point where it has to change.
What about, though, vitamin companies that position on food delivered vitamins? So, for example, the capsule has like beetroot in it because the only way you can get a particular, I don't know, mineral or vitamin into your into your cells is by it being delivered with a food. What's all that about?
Well, look, we know that vitamins absorb better when they're with food, and it's why, as a company, we make every one of our products is vitamins, minerals, and plants. So we always include plants into the matrix of our product, like our gummy is made out of beetroot fiber. So you are getting beetroot in that case, or even our effervescents will have reishi mushroom in them for the daily immunity, or Panax ginseng in the energy and hydration. So we always include plants because I do believe that improves absorption. Typically, if someone asks us, we always recommend that you have your tonic drink with a meal because, the good fats that you're getting from a proper meal will help the absorption of things like vitamin D. So food is important, but I know the company I think you're referring to who position their whole business around, food grown nutrition, which their fundamental premise is a good one. It's great. But where that leads them is, 40-pound tubs of vitamins, and it's very expensive, and they're giving people typically a much lower dose. And what I see the biggest challenge is in the industry is actually we're not getting enough vitamins. Wherever you look, 9 in 10 people have at least one form of nutrient deficiency. So we need to change the quantity and the amount people are getting so we can stop all these deficiencies, which needs then a higher dose.
Let's come back to that industry meme or myth, or is it a myth, which means that if I take a high dose vitamin, I'm going to wee it out. I mean, and time release, how does all that work? Because I'm afraid, what's the point in me taking a higher dose vitamin or mineral supplement if I am just going to wee it out?
Well, look, your body absorbs what it needs. This is the fact that most people don't realize, right? So your body, vitamins are natural. Our body knows how to process them and deal with them. So if you're perfect and you have optimal levels of every, bit of nutrition in your body, then you take some nutrition, your body will use what it needs and it'll excrete some of it, right?
Okay.
But by and large, nothing gained, nothing lost, because it's not going to affect you negatively. Your body knows how to excrete it, and vitamins aren't that expensive if you're not buying some of the top end overpriced ones. So nothing gained, nothing lost. But then if you put that onto the other perspective, where if you're dealing with like a flu, or you're putting your body under a lot of stress because it's dealing with an issue, the amount it can absorb can literally, increase tenfold. So when you look at cold and flu in particular, the amount of vitamin C that becomes optimal. So on a daily basis, about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C is ideal because we don't store vitamin C in the body. So every day we need a new kind of fresh source of vitamin C. So about 1,000 mgs on a daily basis when you're healthy. When you're ill, according to the science, the optimal amount to get in a day is about 8 grams. So 8,000 milligrams of vitamin C in a day, because your immune system wants to use all those antioxidants to go and fuel the fight and get rid of this virus. So it's really dependent on your personal situation, what you're dealing with at the moment. Like stress, and this is the other side of it, right? The more we stress our bodies by being stressed at work, don't sleep enough, drink too much coffee because coffee can strip out minerals of the body. We do all these things to our body all the time, which are putting oxidative stress on our body. And vitamin C and other vitamins, they're the antioxidants to help, replenish that. So the more we batter our body, essentially, the more nutrients we need.
God, I can see all of the things I'm doing wrong. I'm about to have my second coffee. Do you drink coffee?
I drink coffee, yeah, but I try and limit it to just 2 a day. So I'll have
Okay.
like one in the morning and one around lunchtime, and that's
Do
it.
you partake in a little beer or wine or?
Yeah, I mean, look, who doesn't, right?
Well,
But
lots of people these days, including my studio producer here, who, much to all of our disgust, because we all hang out in the same gang here on the Isle of Man has decided to go teetotaler, which I know everyone's doing, and he's dead right for health reasons, but like we're all disgusted with him.
I mean, I basically don't drink, but like on a Friday night, if, it was Valentine's Day last Friday, and so, me and my wife had a glass of wine together, but that was
Ah,
it. We just had one glass of wine, and then
okay.
that was it. But sometimes if I go for a beer, I want that cold,
Yeah,
open a can of beer, nice moment, but I can happily drink an alcohol-free one, just the
there's some
same.
great ones, isn't there? I'm currently
They're really
addicted
good now.
to Lucky Saint, although I do also love, I don't know if you've ever come across one, it's called Impossible.
Oh yeah, is that a good one? I haven't had
Really
it.
good because it's got a social blend, which is like a blend of, I think, ashwagandha and other things just at the right level, according to them, which gives you a buzz. Now, I get a buzz from it. I definitely get a buzz from it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he's a very clever guy. He's a very clever guy.
I'll
Look,
check it out.
it's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to receiving some of your electrolytes because I definitely would like to change that habit in the morning.
Happy to help. Absolutely.
And if you are going to be doing so, everyone, one of my oldest friends is a lovely lady called Sophie who's got a similar channel to Sunna on Instagram in Ireland. And you guys, if you're going to do a collab at any point, let me know because I can't wait to see that because you guys will
We
just
will.
kill it together. Absolutely kill it. Have you done a video on meat free or meat alternatives?
I have. I've done several. Yeah.
Because that I think so. Obviously, I come from a place where I'm on the Better Nature team, so I'm really into kind of like pure alternatives, plant-based alternatives to meat, which tempeh is. I find that whole area really difficult because of the fact that there are so many ingredients in most of those, and they don't normally go together. Like you wouldn't cook them, you wouldn't sit down and cook up a piece of fake ham. Just before we
No.
go, can I just get what's your view on all of that?
Well, you're absolutely right. What we've got to focus on is the fundamentals of food, and food is a natural thing our body has learned to process and deal with and get energy from and get vitamins and minerals from. So when we say, okay, eating less meat is good for the planet, so we should all eat less meat, like fine, you can argue that either way. But then let's go and eat vegetables, right? Let's go and eat plants. Let's go and eat the
Tempeh.
real stuff. Tempeh, whatever. Tempeh is great, you know. But instead, you get this whole industry balloon up, which is all about, let's make it as close as possible to real bacon, and we'll put all these preservatives and additives, and it becomes a thing with 30 ingredients in it, with seed oils and all this added nonsense that you don't want, and it's not healthy. It's like a mega ultra processed food, and switching from meat to that is going to be net negative for your health, and arguably net negative for the environment, because instead of it just being a carrot grown out the ground, it's now this thing that's made in a factory wrapped in plastic and everything else. So it just didn't make any sense from a health perspective. And it was this kind of big boom where it was a race from all the VCs to make the latest and greatest plant-based meat. But, I think it's dying quite quickly now as people realizing.
I also have the same issue with meal replacement shakes, and I'm not mentioning any brand in particular here, but I make my own protein meal replacement shake by getting a block of Better Nature tempeh, right? It doesn't work with the other ones because they taste slightly bitter, but Better Nature doesn't. And it's raw, and I put half of it into the blender with a frozen banana and some Plenish from now on, milk, right?
Good.
And you blitz that up, and the frozen banana makes it taste like ice cream. And the tempeh gives you half a block of Better Nature tempeh gives you 20 grams of protein, right? Loads and
Perfect.
loads and loads of like amino acids from the fermentation. Really, really good for you. Instead of say buying and then I actually do put in some Freya bone broth powder, chocolate bone broth powder.
Awesome.
And yeah, so I've got like this massive, big, really cold, gorgeous shake for lunch instead of buying a brand made of pea protein.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, phenomenal. This sounds way better. I mean, meal replacement shakes fundamentally are flawed because you're telling someone to not eat real food and you're telling them to just drink this thing instead, which often they're filled again with artificial sweeteners, added seed oils. Like they claim nutritionally complete because they add some vitamins in there, which is, arguably a good thing. But fundamentally the thing itself is just a chemical concoction again, which is sad, really.
One last question, sorry, because I never get this opportunity to ask someone who knows about all of this. Chicory root fibre. So every single product I buy these days, I'd have to look at the back. Every single healthy product seems to have added chicory root fibre because they want another plant. They want something that's sweet, and it's a bulking agent, and it's probably cheap. I don't know if it's cheap as an ingredient. But
Not that cheap.
Oh.
No.
But I can't digest chicory root fibre. So, but I find it very difficult if I want to buy any new up and coming cereal or snack bar or anything has got chicory root fibre in it. I can't digest it. So what's that all about?
Can be a personal gut sensitivity. I mean, too much fiber is also not a good thing, right? Like we all typically 9 in 10 don't get enough fiber in their diet, and fiber can have loads of added benefits, but too much of a good thing is also a bad thing, right? And so, sometimes people are consuming too much fiber and their gut can't deal with it. In your case, potentially, you just have a sensitivity.
Okay, so it's not just that it's a cheap ingredient that everybody's adding because it's a replacement for something else, like sugar.
Well, I mean, it's going into everything because essentially you're adding a fiber rather than a sugar. And our gummies are made out of beetroot fiber because you need to have something as the base
Carrier.
for the gummy to carry the vitamins. And a fiber is better for you than a sugar. So yeah, I mean, I guess you're unlucky in the sense that you're sensitive to it. But people also have to be careful that they don't eat too much fiber, because too much fiber in one go can cause you all sorts of tummy problems. As you'll know, if you're a dried mango obsessive like I used to be, until I realized dried fruit isn't that great for you, and I would eat like too much dried mango, and then it would cause me all sorts of problems.
Yeah, and your wife as well, I would imagine.
Yes.
On that note, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Wishing you all the very best. I would imagine that by the end of this year, you probably don't want to say, but I would imagine by the end of this, say let's next January, your run rate.
We should hopefully be at about 14-15 million run rate.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So we are going quick.
Yeah, because it's exponential, right? You're on the exponential growth curve. Listen.
With the fastest growing vitamin brand in the industry, 362% up year on year.
The fastest growing vitamin brand in the UK.
In the UK, yeah.
And any plans to go abroad?
We will at some point, but at the moment we're just growing so fast in the UK, we think it's better to focus our time and energy on that. But I mean, we also are the most watched nutrition brand globally. We have more followers than Kourtney Kardashian's vitamin brand as well.
Way.
So yeah, that's one of our little claims to fame.
You've created something incredible. How do you keep your feet in the ground?
It's just I'm still just trying to build this business, right? And building a startup is a very humbling experience anyway, because you get stuff wrong all the time, and you have one win and then you have one loss, and then it's always a battle. And the whole social media and the thing, it's just, I never wanted to be an influencer. I don't really care for it. I just want to help people be healthier and change the industry. So yeah, the social thing is like 2 days a month, and the rest is just focused on building the business.
You're brilliant. Thank you so much, Sunna, and wishing you all the very best for the rest of the year. I know you've got a really, really busy period coming up, and so we'll have our fingers crossed for you while you're doing that, and more to follow,
Amazing.
I'm sure.
Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you
Appreciate
so much.
it.
What a great case study that was in proving that selling less can actually grow your brand more. Sunna's approach to content-first brand building is something every challenger brand should pay attention to. Instead of pushing products, he focused on creating content that truly engages, educates and builds trust without selling. And guess what? The sales followed. Something that really stood out for me is that great content isn't about your product. It's about what your audience cares about. Sunna ignored the traditional marketing playbook. While investors wanted click-through rates and direct ROI, he doubled down on helping people make better health choices, knowing that over time, his audience would convert naturally. So if you're growing a brand, ask yourself, are you just selling, or are you building a conversation that people actually want to be part of? Sunna, thanks so much for sharing your insights and for showing us how to win in a totally different way, leading with value and not your own product. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review and share it with a founder or marketeer who needs to hear it. And of course, Check out Tonic Health on Instagram and TikTok to see their content-first branding in action. See you next time.